The African National Congress is holding a National Executive Committee meeting this weekend, and the state capture report is expected to be part of the agenda. Several members of the party have been implicated. The NEC previously resolved to implement a step-aside rule for members fingered in allegations of wrongdoing. Last year, the resolution resulted in the suspension of Ace Magashule as Secretary General, as he's charged with corruption in the Free State Asbestos project during his time as Premier. Recently, the party's Women's League president, Batabile Dlamini, was found guilty of perjury for lying under oath at a 2017 inquiry looking into the SARSA debacle. Will the party see more members having to step aside? Well, that's the question. Political analyst Professor Barry Hanyane weighs in. He joins us live now. Barry, thank you so much for your time. Prof, rather, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us. Now, going into this weekend, the ANC's top decision-making body had a lot to consider, as I mentioned earlier, including the state of its regional and provincial bodies ahead of the elective conferences. I wonder what sort of message has been sent to those bodies ahead of these all-important conferences?
Well, good morning, dear. Good morning to your viewers. It seems that there's a big impression of a hands-on-deck approach to say there is perhaps a need to fast-track, firstly, the issue of the state capture report and come up with a concerted effort rather than allowing it to ambiguous interpretation and in the process allowing certain persons to fill through the gaps and escape perhaps sanction or punishment, as it were. So that task team needs to then work hard in terms of ensuring that there is uniformity, but equally there is a sense of agency, seeing that the president has given the party almost between 4 months to about 6 months safely to react on the reports themselves in various incarnations. But secondly, there is then the need to drive home the issue of a template, which is not going to be easy. Already there are persons within the party itself who chose to resist the issue of the step-aside ruling, and they have gone on without necessarily having to face the punishment of the party. I think there will be a renewed kind of push front to say everybody must now adhere to some kind of a concerted effort, so that in the end they are able then to speak to the issue of renewal, to speak to the issue of discipline. It's not going to be easy, but certain things, if ever this party needs to save itself, if of course there is still a soul left, needs to do something about it. As for the certain individuals, the whole issue of the big mentality or big personality politics is now under scrutiny. It cannot be that people like President of the Women's League, Batabile Dlamini, might not face at least interrogation by the Integrity Commission. Surely something must give in there so that in the end some sense of parity is observed.
I mean, Professor, you have described for us what could possibly be happening behind those closed doors, talking about a concerted effort to keep the party unified, particularly in this all-important year. But we know that the organization is deeply factionalized. The fault lines within the party run quite deep. And so what kind of fallout can we still expect, even with this concerted effort to try and keep the party unified as it deals with the recommendations and the implications of the Zondo report?
You know what? I'm looking at the bigger picture here. Take the example of the latest, I'm going to call it for what it is, I believe, the show road that we had here in the Northwest, the president coming over with his ministers. My sense is that he is somewhat getting tired of having to fill in the gaps, giving answers from time to time, when there is the cabinet. Despite the odds in the fact that the DA is by and large unhappy with the scorecard given to the entire cabinet, he holds the key to say, look, these guys must now start doing something. These ministers must be seen to be working. Otherwise, I cannot be the be-all and the end-all of life when it comes to matters of government processes and business. So this sense, the fact that these task teams will then come, the second group that will come in and say, let's help this president. Let's do what we need to do, at least salvage something from what remains from this party after the dismal performance on the 1st of November last year. So there is these contestations, but very importantly is that you are beginning to sense that there are franchised groupings within the party that says the time is ripe to fulfill a sense of responsibility and give Matamela a sense of leeway so that in the end, it's all hands on deck. And of course, the need to salvage a sense of renewal, refocusing on the need for the economy and allowing the party to have impetus on all these matters.
Well, Professor, thank you so much for helping us to try and make sense of what is happening behind those closed doors and to sort of try and anticipate what we're likely to hear from that briefing after the meeting. Still to come.